January 2006, and we're going to talk about um, mainly about Rideau Street in the years that he had a shop there, which would be in the 40s. Okay, Toby, what year were you born?
1912, May 19th.
And you were born in Ottawa.
Right, I was born here in Ottawa.
And who were your parents?
My father and mother, Max and Fanny Appel.
And when did they arrive in Ottawa?
Oh, they arrived in Ottawa I don't know exact date, but I do know my father arrived in Pembroke with my mother, and then we moved to Ottawa, and they opened a grocery store on an apartment on York and Nelson, and which was owned by my late uncle, Louis Tradridge. They, in those days, my father's store would not be open on Saturday, but eventually he returned back to Europe because he didn't like the fact that he had to open a store on Saturday. Eventually, my mother and father returned back, and they landed in Pembroke, and my father taught Mr. Betjeman's family and Mr. Adelman's family as a Hebrew teacher, and naturally it wasn't so productive, so they moved back to Ottawa and opened a store at Rideau and Nelson, a grocery store, and eventually sold that store to a Mr. Lithwick, and they moved to Somerset and Henderson and opened a grocery store there.
So what year did you go into business as a customer peddler?
Oh, I went into business I was about 26 years of age, and my father was very put out that I wouldn't work in the grocery store. But I was very fortunate. I gathered a lot of people, went from door to door, and I had made arrangements with Kaplan's with the help of my late mother, who loaned me $500 to open an account with Kaplan's.
I see.
And then I arranged with Schaefer's and Colonial Furniture, and also with Simon Furs on Queen Street. And
so the capital to start out was loaned
very loaned
by your mother.
That's right, my late mother.
Yeah. So, and as you went along, you just used the money that
yes,
any money that you earned.
That's right. But then I had to increase the loan because my business was being very well taken, and I had to borrow money from the bank, and the bank loaned me $1,000 to add to my capital.
You're laughing. Was that because you were quite young at the time?
Oh yes, but I was very lucky because my credit with Kaplan, I was doing more business, so I had to have more money to pay them every month when the bill came due. Finally, I must admit the Kaplan boys, particularly Gordon, was very happy the way I operated and didn't bother me, except once, as a number of years later, my wife, I got married, and I was living in an apartment, and then we had a child, and we decided to build a home. That goes back many years. And then they wanted me to take a mortgage on my house to pay them in case anything happened that I went banco, they would grab the house. My wife said, I will never forget it, said, over my dead body, nobody keeps
Didn't want to be owned by Kaplan.
That's right. So that's what happened. But I was very fortunate, as I said to you before. very, very fortunate. I was aggressive enough that wasn't afraid to ask people, here's my card, here's what you can get. You have the different stores that you can go in, charge it, and pay me so much a month.
So they charged it to, say, Kaplan's.
No, they went to Kaplan's,
yeah,
used my card, and Kaplan's would charge it to me.
yes,
And give me my 20%
okay.
at the end of every month, a statement.
So I was going to ask you to sort of define what a customer peddler is or
Yes.
does.
Well, there's different types of customer peddling. Some people used to take their stuff out and show it to the customer and sell it. I never did that. All I did, I gave you a card, and when I had to approve it, of course. At Kaplan's, when they went to pick it up, they was all right. If that's their amount, they would get it.
I see.
And I had no problems. I was very fortunate. I was made pretty sure lucky that they were good risk. If they had a job and they got so much money. The only thing I had to do is make sure, like for example, a lot of them worked for Bell Canada. A lot of them had gas stations. Then I also had Loblaws, Groceries. Then I also had Woolworths, used to be on Rideau Street. Then I had the Metropolitan Store, which was on the other side of the street on Mosgrove and Rideau. And then, after that, as a matter of fact, I had a couple of the theaters, Regent Theater and Capitol Theater.
Now, did they approach you to, or you?
I approached them.
You approached them.
And then they became my customers. And eventually, as my business grew, I took an office on top of Kresge store on Rideau Street.
Yes.
And they used to make their payments there, or in most cases, if I had to, I'd have to go collect it from them before they spent it. And I get my usually weekly or monthly payments. I was very, as I said, very, very lucky. And I think I told you the story where a lady, one of my customers, went to Simon Furs with me to buy a fur coat, and she said, I think I'll give it some thought. I said, fine. And she turned around about a week or two later, went back to Simon Furs, bought the coat, but he said to her, that's fine, you have it, this price, that's yours. And she opened an account with Simon Furs. And months later or two, I got a check from $100 from Simon Furs. That was my commission. And he gave it to me. He didn't have to. I didn't even know about it, that she went back and bought a coat. He was a very honorable man.
I mean, I guess he wanted your continuing business.
That's right.
Oh, that was beautiful.
Then also
I don't understand, though, if they had their own, like if you could have a charge account with them, why did they need a customer peddler?
They liked the fact that I was very friendly. I was person-on-person basis, like friends. As a customer. The department store doesn't know you that well. They're not that interested in you particularly, but I was interested in my customers because they knew me, they'd see me, and if there was any questions or problems, I would discuss it with them.
Right, but I guess charge accounts weren't very popular in those days.
No, they weren't, and they were very careful, and I was too. Don't get me wrong. I just didn't. I had a lot of government people. See, I knew them because I had worked for the government for 1 year. And I will never forget the assistant deputy minister said to me, "What are you doing here? You're so smart. You're not for the government. Go out and do something else." And that's what happened, really. That's what started me in the customer peddling. I never thought of it, but he told me to look around.
Yeah. Now, during the Depression, what happened? I mean, were you able to keep the business going during the Depression?
Yes, sure.
Or was it better during the
better
Depression?
for me.
Uh-huh.
They needed me. They the terms, and I gave it them easily, $1 a week or $2 a week, or $5 a month. And then I had one case where a doctor, G.P. Howlett was his name. He and his wife were my customers, and they wanted to buy furniture. That was really my big break. They bought for about $3,000 in those days, furniture. And naturally, I had that money for 2 or 3 months that I could use. Oh no, I was very lucky.
So,
that's
yeah,
why.
the Depression didn't have a negative effect on you then.
No, it was to help me.
Yes. And so, why did you decide to go into ladies' wear?
Oh, well, the reason I had to go into business when I had to leave Kaplan's and Schaefer's, because they would not give me a commission anymore. There was a shortage of merchandise, and they said, "Why should I have to pay you when they'd have to come to my store anyway?" So that's why I was forced to pay Mr. Fine in those days $25,000 for a store to release, like, to take over his business.
I see. And what was the name of the store?
Ray's Ladies Wear.
And was that, it was Ray's, like apostrophe S, R-A-E apostrophe S.
It's named after one of his daughter was Anne Mursky was the daughter, and Ray, I think, was the wife's name.
So where was the store located?
Next there was Ogilvy's, Trudell Hardware, and then mine.
And how long were you at that location?
Oh, we were there for a number of years, 5 or 6 years. Then the building, Ogilvy's, oh yes, what happened was the building was sold to a Belgium company who bought Ogilvy's and were going to expand to all the way down Rideau, my block.
I see.
And then I was there for about another 5 years, and then I had to move. So I moved across the street, and right at the corner there was a grocery called Dominion Store, and I took over that store, rebuilt it.
It had gone out of business or closed? Had Dominion closed, or?
They closed that location.
They closed it,
And then I had to rebuild it, fix it. And I had a fellow by the name of, he was a big builder. There's also a name in the paper recently. He wanted to build the Opera on Eldon Street. And he did it. And we spent, in those days, it was $8,000. So it was a lot of money to do the store. And I opened Ray's there. And after 6 years more, I opened Glenmore, bought it from Mr. Holtzman, Deansborough South. And that's it.
So was it attached on to the Dominion location, or?
No.
No, you moved right out of that one and into the other?
No, I had Ray's. Then I took over Glenmore. And after there was this men's shop across the street called A.W. Critch. About after I was in brothers, so they sold the building. They wouldn't sell it to a Jew because they were German. So I had an agent, a real estate agent, and I got permission from my lawyer, Gordon Henderson, to use his name and put it in trust.
I see.
And that's how we bought it. And I couldn't say to you or to anybody that I bought it for 6 months. It was very difficult for me to keep quiet.
I see. So where was that? The one that you bought through Henderson?
Right across the street, called A.W. Critch Men's Shop.
So you had the store.
I had Ray's.
You had
and then I
Ray's,
had Glenmore.
and you had Glenmore, and then the one across the street.
I amalgamated the two, Ray's and Glenmore, and called it Ray's Glenmore.
So then you were back across the street again.
That was it, yes. I don't remember the exact year, though. I could ask my son Barry or Maureen. They would know the date.
So this was all on the same side of the street
No.
as I'm.
No. I had Ray's and Glenmore on what you call that side.
The side of Freeman.
Yes, the side of Freeman's.
Yeah.
I had those until I moved across the street
I see.
and we joined them together.
I see.
Ray's Glenmore.
So it was all one store.
Right.
Okay. And where was that located?
Where next, as I told you, next to Ogle Hardware, and then A.W. Critch.
Okay.
The same location.
It was the same
Where Ray's was, the buildings were all thrown down by the developers from Belgium, but they didn't go through with it.
Oh, okay. So it was the same location but expanded.
Yeah, that's
Yes, right. Ogilvy's was still there,
Yes,
but what was
Trudell
Rideau?
Hardware
It was
was
still
there.
there. Okay.
and then Critch's, which built that. That's it.
Okay. Sorry, it's taking me a while to.
Oh no, that's
I
all
wanted
right.
to make sure I have the right
Yeah.
idea. Okay. So, what made Rideau Street a good business place?
Well, because there was Freeman's, and there were all these other stores like Schaefer's, Kaplan's, and Jack Snow at the corner. There was Bank of Montreal there, and he took over that store. Then there was Sawmax, and there was, who else was there? Oh yeah, Dolly D, who was with Sawmax first, and opened his own.
And that was a shoe store?
Yes,
Yeah.
ladies' shoe
Yeah.
store.
Right. So this attracted business to your ladies'
That's
wear
right.
business.
There was no Rideau Center then.
Right. So what percentage of the Rideau Street businesses were Jewish owned, would you say?
Oh, a number of them. There was Kaplan's, there was Schaefer's, there was Dolly D, Mr. Sachs, and then there was Jack Snow at the corner. Oh yes, there was Pilot C. That was kitchenware, but that wasn't Jewish.
Okay.
It was French. And that was it. That was the whole street.
Yeah. Okay. So that was, I mean,
Oh
it
yes,
was
there was Edelson Jr. was way up on top,
right.
way up on the street.
So in those days, what was Rideau Street known for? Like if you were shopping, what would you go there for?
Oakland's was a big department store. Kaplan's was a big department store. Schaefer's was a nice small department store. There was a lot of pictures, people. And naturally I had, well, you must remember I had Ray's and Glenmore in one. There was a fair amount of people that came by from Ogilvy's and from Kaplan's and Schaefer's. And I must say Ray's had a fair following at that time, and so did Glenmore.
You were telling me that the merchandise was not necessarily different, all that different
That's
from
right.
one store to the other.
No. Well, you mean my case? Yeah.
Yeah.
It was.
Uh-huh.
No.
So if you didn't catch them in one store?
That's right, exactly. They would, a lot of people say, oh my, your store is so much nicer. Or they would go to her and sister-in-law's serving, oh my, you have such nice merchandise. You know, the store in the corner doesn't have the same. They would, that's public.
Oh, that's great. So the schmata business was really very much a Jewish
Definitely.
business,
Definitely.
right from the manufacturer to
Right to the,
yeah.
absolutely.
Right.
Not like today, please believe me.
Uh-huh. So what was it like? I mean, you used to go to buy the stuff right from the manufacturer,
Mhm.
right from the
When
factory.
oh, yes.
Yeah. You'd go to their showrooms or
No, you go to Chateau Laurier,
uh-huh.
where the travelers would come in, and
Uh-huh.
first they used to come to the what they call the town hotel on Rideau, where the Days Inn is now,
Okay.
and that's where they used to take the rooms
Mhm.
to show their merchandise. As a matter of fact, sometimes they still come. I see the odd one.
Mhm.
Hello, how are you?
Uh-huh.
See, I go to my son's office and I'd see them.
So you could, besides just choosing what you wanted to order from them, you could say, "I want this to be just for my store," or can you do
Well,
that?
what
or?
happens, yes, you could do that for a long time,
Mhm.
but then the law changed and you couldn't ask
Oh.
for special favors from the manufacturer.
Mhm.
What we used to do was say to the traveler, look, I want this number, and this number. Take it out of the line when this next customer comes.
Mhm. Yeah.
So they
Well, it must have been quite competitive. There were.
very. But I was, as I say again, you have to be lucky. My staff was very good. Very fortunate. I have staff with me for many years,
Mhm.
and we used to treat them right. And particularly when my son came in, we had to have like give him parties at Christmas time, have him treat them well,
Mhm.
and paid them a little more than the average.
Mhm.
Oh no, they were well paid, and they did very well.
Mhm. So how would your ladies' wear shop compare with some of the other ones in terms of the
Well-
pricing and the
Well,
quality and that?
you'd have to follow the same as we call like Captain's or Freeman's or Dalmy's, which was next door to me too. That's after Saw Max, they came Dalmy's. That was a very big chain.
That wouldn't have been in the 40s though, would it?
Well,
Might have
that
been a
was
little
in
bit
the
later.
60s, yeah.
60s, yeah. Right. So there were also a lot of Jewish-owned ladies' wear shops on Sparks,
Bank
Bank Street.
Oh
Yeah.
yes, loads of them.
Yeah.
But again, you have to understand, when you have a certain trade that follows you,
Mhm.
it's not like today where they go from one store to another as much. In those days, it used to be, they knew the girl that was serving them. They'd come back to that again.
Mhm.
Harris, come with me and speak to me. They're very friendly. Oh no, we were very fortunate.
Mhm.
Anybody will tell you that even when I walk down the street, he still asks me, what are you doing now? Where's your store now?
And people wish that your store was still there. Yeah.
It's really comical when they ask you, where are you now? I'm retired 21 years now, 22 years.
Right.
So it's a lot of fun. I'm very fortunate.
Mhm.
You know what the term mazel?
Mhm.
I had it. I was very, very fun. In my day, the kind of money I made, it's unbelievable, especially
Mm-hmm.
Who ever heard of a fella making $50,000, $60,000 a year then?
Then meaning this was in the 30s, right?
In the 40s.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you built it up.
Mm-hmm.
I did. I had a big business. But when I was told I had to quit, that's why I paid a lot of money for raise.
Mm-hmm.
But it was worth it. I had his customers and my customers, but I didn't have any menswear. So I lost that trade, but I got all the ladies' business.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So how did some of the other Jewish ladies wear business
Well,
owners, how did they get their start? Were they
I
all...
don't know. All I know is Saul Max and his son, his brother Arthur,
Mm-hmm.
ran Saul Max. Across, and were raises now after I moved from, like, I left across the street.
Yeah.
There came Tiffany's ladies wear.
Mm-hmm.
And they went Banco, as you know, later on. And they had a store in Westgate.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
And then they had one on Rideau. And they went Banco a number of years later.
Mm-hmm.
But it shows you life plays funny tricks.
Mm-hmm.
It's not always times change. Rideau Center opened. Freeman's was bought out and couldn't take the pace.
Mm-hmm.
The Bay took over. Kaplan's went Banco. There was an old institution.
I see, yeah.
And times changed.
Right.
Ogilvy's closed down.
Mm-hmm. And you managed to keep your business going until you retired.
That's
yeah.
right.
Yeah.
I was
What
very
year
lucky.
did you stop your business?
22 years ago.
Mm-hmm. So did you say that your son was in business with you?
Yes, after a while, after
Uh-huh.
a number of years later, yes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He came in. He was very helpful. The only thing is, he wasn't aggressive as far as the customers were concerned. He wasn't friendly or how to handle the customer.
Mm-hmm.
I was the front man. Hello, how are you? The only thing was, I think I mentioned to you, the lady came in to buy a raincoat, and I said, oh my, he liked that on you. And it was a nun. And my son gave me a poke like that. I said, what's wrong? He said, I'll tell you. So that's, but he was only interested in the cash, check how we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Downstairs, we had like a downstairs and the upstairs, and then on the mezzanine we had the bride, and that was a big business. Bride.
The bridal. Now, most of your customers were non-Jewish, is that right?
Oh, you're right, 99%.
Yeah.
There was
So what, were they French or Italian?
mostly French,
Uh-huh.
Italian,
Uh-huh.
and English.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say French majority.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't speak French that well, but I used to kibitz with them
Uh-huh.
and try to make myself understood.
Talking about language, do you speak Yiddish?
Oh yes.
Did you use your Yiddish when you were working with the manufacturers and the...
No.
No.
No, they weren't interested. All they were interested in, hey, you'd go out, you may have a coffee with them or something, or go out to lunch with them.
Uh-huh.
But no Yiddish. No, they couldn't care less.
Yeah,
Most
everybody
of-
was using English, yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. You mentioned about your father at the beginning, that he was disturbed by...
Oh yeah, he didn't
not-
speak to me for 3 months.
Oh, okay. And I'm thinking about how he wanted to be able to, to observe Shabbat. But,
Couldn't.
yeah, but
Because
for
you know what?
yourself and for other merchants in the 30s and the 40s, it wasn't common to keep your business closed on Shabbat, was it?
Oh, they were open.
Yeah, yeah.
You opened. But my father came back from Europe, He's realized that but he wouldn't work on Saturday. He would let my mother run it.
Oh, yeah.
And he was a very, he really was extremely religious. Now, there's such a thing today, like I have my children, they're all brought up in the Orthodox. I'm conservative. My daughter in Toronto is conservative. My son-in-law and daughter in Kansas City, he's the rabbi, they're conservative. Maureen and Henry are extremely religious, even today.
But the type of work that you were doing didn't allow you to...
You had to be open.
Right.
You couldn't close your store.
And this...
As a matter of fact, let me tell you, we closed on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. Freeman's closed. Everybody, Bank Street, a lot of the stores closed. When Freeman's realized they couldn't, they had to be open on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, then Catholics opened Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur.
Okay.
And we opened in Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur right after that. We followed the leader.
Right. Well, how did you find out that they were going to do that?
Well, you automatically read the sign, we're open.
As soon as they said they weren't going to be open, yeah.
Well,
or
we were
that they were going to be open, yeah.
My late wife, though, my first wife, I had to keep closed the first time that they were open. She didn't like it. Then I said to her, look dear, that's what I have to do. And that's what happened. There was a lot of the stores, they were all open after that.
So when was the change? When did they start to open?
Many years ago. I don't know the exact date or anything, but it was many years ago. The moment the Freemans realized Ogilvy's was open, and all the other Eaton's was on Bank Street was open, they're going to be open. Of course, then that's the time he switched to A.J. Freeman Limited. He had shareholders.
So
the family shareholders.
Yes.
So he opened up. He needed it. He had to do to stay.
I guess you would. There'd be a lot of business just in those 24 hours or
That's
48
right.
hours. Yeah.
And that's what happened. Why should we lose all that business? And you have to also remember, a lot of the stores he didn't know were Jewish. I don't know whether they knew they were Jewish stores, but when they saw they were, they opened up. That's it.
Well, I guess, yeah, if your clientele was mainly
Well,
not
certainly
Jewish.
wasn't Jewish.
Right. So,
most of
and there was some anti-Semitism at the time as well.
Oh, and how?
Right. So if they knew that you were Jewish,
That's right.
what would happen?
Well, what would happen was a lot of the people at first, I would say, for a year or two, it wasn't that easy. But then people, they forget. I would say Freeman's was a very smart operator, and when his father died, when A.J. died, things started changing. Lawrence couldn't keep up, but saw the writing in the wall. He had a store in St. Laurent,
right,
and he had one in Westgate and Rideau Street, and then he opened in Pembroke. He had to close them because business changed and they opened the Rideau Center.
Yes, yeah. But you say A.J. was a really smart businessman?
Oh yes.
Yeah, in what way?
Well, he had gimmicks. He was the first one that put pennies in the window and you have to count, give in your guess, and he give you a car if you want it. Oh no, he was a good operator. His son was a little more, wasn't as He was a nice fellow,
Mhm.
but he wasn't the man the father was. Mind you, times had changed with more competition.
Right.
When the father was around, there wasn't that kind of competition.
Mhm.
There was no Rideau Center.
But you were talking about customers knowing that you're a Jewish operation. But Freeman they must have known that Freeman's was
Yes,
a Jewish
they were known.
store,
Oh,
right?
yes,
Jewish
because
owned, yeah.
closed on.
Right. But just generally, would A.J. Freeman not have been known in the community as a staunch
He was a
member? I mean, he was the president of
president of the
the
community.
shul, and then
Oh,
he
yes.
became the president of the
Oh,
community,
yes.
president
But
of
how
the
would they
Zionist
know?
organization.
How would they know?
Right, right. Well, the prime minister knew. They entertained the prime minister and
Who?
Lillian and A.J. Freeman
Lillian was a great worker for the community, for
Right.
the poppies and for
Red Cross. And,
Oh,
yeah,
yes.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, no, you have to understand, she was a great, well-known individual.
Mhm.
But as far as A.J., I don't think he was that well-known.
Uh-huh.
She was the leader of the family. I remember her, though.
What was she like? What was her
She
personality?
was a wonderful person.
Uh-huh.
I knew her very well. When I say I knew her, my late brother Mo, who was head of it for Israel, he was head of the bonds for Israel. He was very close to her, and she very liked Mo. And so did Archie Freeman. They're nice. They were a lovely family.
Mhm. Well, I guess they had they were very prominent,
Yes.
but somehow seemed to be able to enjoy everybody in the community. They were not really up above to any extent.
No. And another thing is, I would say she was liked by everybody. She was very well liked. I don't know about him so much because she was in the forefront. She was in.
Well, it's quite amazing how many things she did, and they all came at right around the same time. You know, she was doing so much.
Oh, yes.
Both for
But-
the local community and for
Well, as far as I'm concerned, I think she loved it. She liked the limelight. That's my impression. I may be wrong.
That's what she thrived on.
Yeah. That's my impression. I used to remember when people would talk to her, and she'd say to me, when I'd hear her talk, she'd say, "Well, it's nice to be well known." She was a very lovely person. You can't take it away from her. She was a smart lady.
Well, do you think that was she saying that she did it because she wanted to be well known, or that it was very helpful to her to be well known?
It helped her.
Yeah,
yes.
because she could do more.
Oh, yes.
Do more for the community.
And she was like, and the name became very popular too. The war veterans liked her. Everybody, she was very well liked. She did a lot of work for the community.
Was able to raise money like anything,
Yes.
right?
But on top of raising money, she was very helpful to the Jewish people too. She brought over a lot of people from Europe.
Right.
Oh, she was very nice. I remember that. I wasn't close to her or anything, but I knew her. Hello. Betsy.
Well, yeah.
But, and when I opened my Glenmore shop, I remember Lawrence Freeman came over to wish me luck. I had like a reception opening, and he came over, and my next door neighbor Ritz was a big storekeeper. He had a ladies' wear shop right next to me on the other side, like on Glenmore side. And he said, "Look, I'm a big man," and he said, "Don't fool around with me." Very nice. No, as I said to you, muscle is a big thing. Today, to me, to open a store, I wouldn't dare. I wouldn't want it.
Mm-hmm.
That's how things are today.
Mm-hmm.
So hard. This small guy hasn't got a chance. How many Jewish stores have we got left?
Right. Before I forget, I want to get the spelling for Glenmore, like how you spelled it. First it was Rays dash or
Rays.
Rays, yeah.
By the way, you know I had to change it from Glenmore to Glenmore.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, tell me about that.
Well, so Glenmore is Gly
Mm-hmm.
Nmore.
Nmore.
Yeah, Glenmore.
Glenmore.
That's it.
Okay. So was it Rays Glenmore, or Rays dash Glenmore?
Rays dash Glenmore.
Dash. Okay.
But it's called Rays Glenmore.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the time I had to change it. That was really something. It was a Jewish lawyer representing them,
Mm-hmm.
Lindors, and he helped me in that respect, my lawyer, and they made a compromise. I changed it to 6 months, use up the bags and all with my
Mm-hmm.
Lindmore.
So, do you have any other memories of problems with anti-Semitism at that time?
Hello. She helps me.
Do you want to talk to her? Do you have any memories of
The only
problems with
thing I
anti-Semitism in
remember-
the 30s or?
Yeah, I remember the only thing is Tiso. He was a detective
Mm-hmm.
who was very much against the Jews.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only thing I really remember.
Mhm.
You get the odd one who say dirty Jew or something like that.
Mhm.
Yes, but not that much. Today I think it's worse than ever.
Mm-hmm.
There's more of it today than we had then.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I think the country is learning to appreciate us, but grudgingly.
Mm-hmm.
They're not, if you ask the average individual, what do you think? I really don't know. I can't really say that. I mean, as I say, it depends where you live or who you.
Mm-hmm. Where did you live as you were growing up?
I live in Sandy Hill.
In Sandy Hill? Uh-huh.
Well, first I was in Rideau Street,
Mm-hmm.
but I was born on Sandy Hill. My family,
Mm-hmm.
they had, my late brother was Rideau Street.
So
And
did you go, which public school did you go to?
I went to York Street first
York Street?
for a couple of years, and then we went to Osgood Street School.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Then to Lisgar Collegiate.
Mm-hmm.
But I wasn't what you call a good student. I wasn't that smart. As I say, I went after the
Great.
Bank Street, as far as I recall, there was Hartman had a store. Steen Brothers was a well-known upper-class ladies' wear.
Was that Jewish owned?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
And there's a number. There was Dominion House. That was a ladies' wear, like similar to Schaefer's, the department store. At Spark Street was the Middlemans, New Vogue.
Gainsborough?
Who?
Gainsborough?
That's
that was
right,
hats
Gainsborough, that's
but,
right.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that one. There was another store on Bank Street. I can't remember her name. She had a store there. Ladies wear, Harper's, ladies wear. And then there was one further on Bank Street. I can't remember the name of it. Laurie was the owner. Laurie, Laurie, but I don't remember.
So did Bank Street tend to be the priciest shops?
Not pricey.
No.
He had a lot of stores like mine.
Mm-hmm.
There was Downey's on Spark Street. Spark Street. That was a chain.
Right.
Then you had Eaton's on Bank Street.
Where was Eaton's on Bank
Bank
Street?
and Laurier.
Oh, I see.
They didn't last. Remember when Eaton's closed?
Yes, on Rideau you're talking.
No, not on Rideau. That's Ogilvy's on Rideau.
Right.
Bank Street.
Mm-hmm.
Eaton's had a store. That was a very popular store. I don't know what happened there. But Eaton's closed in Toronto. You remember that?
Mm-hmm.
They closed up everything. Closed out west. They did everything.
Sure.
Competition was very key.
Mm-hmm.
Still is.
Mm-hmm. Tell me a bit about the fashions. What kinds of ladies' clothing did you sell?
Well, I only sold medium priced.
Uh-huh.
Not lowest price, but medium priced.
Mm-hmm.
But Steen Brothers was what you call higher priced.
Mm-hmm.
Old Renfrew
Sure.
was a higher priced.
Mm-hmm.
Freeman's had the what they call a certain room.
Mirror? No, Mirror Room was Eaton's, I think. Yeah.
No, it wasn't there. But he used to have a special room. I remember the lady that would buy used to buy it. It was Mary Cassell. I can still remember. She was in charge.
Mm-hmm.
And no, and mind you, they had medium price too. But they had a certain room for the higher priced merchandise.
And did you sell mainly casual, or was it working type of?
You mean me?
Yeah.
Oh, well, we
race
had the medium priced
Mm-hmm.
sports where ladies wear dresses, coats, suits.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't that? We would never be what you call high priced.
No. But it was like separate departments in the store,
Yes,
was it?
that's
With
right.
and you had a manager in each, or somebody,
No,
a sales
we had
lady in each.
Sales. Oh yes,
yeah.
sales lady. And on a Saturday, you'd see a lot of people wait in line to go up and see the.
Uh-huh.
And that was a big business.
A lot of individual attention.
That's right.
Yeah.
And my only competitor then was across the street.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was Middleman's on Spark Street. Outside now, we were the biggest in that field.
Mm-hmm.
We were lucky. The Italians, money was no object when it came to their daughter getting married.
Okay.
But when it came to the French, a little different.
Mm-hmm.
And the English, well, they were always looking for bargains. But we had a very, very successful.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's lovely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what age range did you deal with?
Mm.
The customers would have been what age group?
Well, from anywhere from 19 to 28.
Mm-hmm.
You mean the getting married?
No, all together in your
Oh.
shop. Yeah.
I had a lot of government girls. I'd say from 20 to 30,
Mm-hmm.
35, that's it.
Mm-hmm.
But then when they got married, I'd still get them. They a little older.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I was very, as I say many times, you've got to be Muslim. You have to have luck. And we had it.
Mm-hmm.
But my nucleus was from the customer. That's really what made me a fairly good one.
And in a way, you say there were different kinds of customer peddlers, but in a way, you invented your own kind of customer peddler, didn't you?
That's right. Because they never used cards, or like I did. They would scribble on a piece of paper here. I did business like.
But having a card and saying which businesses you dealt with, I guess, made it a lot more. Yeah.
Oh, no, I couldn't do that.
Oh, you couldn't do that?
No, because captains see that. That's all they needed. No, I just tell you what I had, merchandise.
Oh, I see.
No, I was
not the specific businesses.
No.
Okay.
Because it could very well.
Yeah.
Captains wouldn't like that I bought my fur coats there instead of buying them from him.
Okay, you're right.
Or my furniture from somewhere else.
Right. And you mentioned Loblaws.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I had
So people could buy their groceries and charge it to you?
No. I used to give them cards, the employees.
Yes.
They were my customers.
Oh, okay.
Woolworths, they were my customers.
Okay.
And I had one girl at Woolworths. I had one at Metropolitan. She used to collect the dollars for me, and I'd come in on every Monday. And then at Loblaws, I had one of the chaps. By the way, did you ever hear of the lady who was head of the NCC? She was a member of Parliament. Her name was just recently. Oh God, what is her name? She was head of the NCC. She was very prominent. Her father was Morrison.
That's what I was just going to say. It was the bakery.
Yeah.
Yeah, Greet. Was it Greet? Her first name Greet? That was one of the sisters then.
Anyways, her husband, the one who was NCC, I can't remember her name now. Her husband worked at Loblaws as a fruit man, in the fruit department. He was my customer. And look at the day where I still meet Arthur every so often. I meet him and we sit and talk, and he talk about the old days. He doesn't forget that he was a poor boy. He married a very wealthy lady.
I see.
She's Morrison Lamoth.
Right.
And they still have his two sons still run the business.
I see. So all the people working within that, say in Woolworths, could be part of this plan? Or
it depends on the girl, whoever they want.
Okay, so it was just on an individual basis?
That's right.
Yeah.
And I used to go around and hello, hi, and the girl would give me my money, and I'd give them credit for their receipts, for what they paid. Oh God, those were the days. As I say, that was my real rate. When I made a lot of money in those days. See, in those days you used to get interest on your money. But they didn't care. You could charge them the interest as long as you gave them permission to buy. Do you understand what I'm saying?
No.
So they used to be good customers. And I was very fortunate. I think I lost about $50 or $60 in the whole years of my business. So that's not bad.
Right.
I can't complain.
Well, thank you so much. This is just very, very interesting. And, I look forward to incorporating it into the story in our book.
Okay.